All right, some post-jiu-jitsu thoughts. Today's topic is about giving more of yourself as you progress your skill. Every level of performance will demand more of you. As you push your skill set, be ready for a required increase in commitment, discipline, and grit. Mastery is reserved for those who are willing to give more of themselves. So, throughout my jiu-jitsu path and jiu-jitsu journey, I've noticed that one, it doesn't get any easier. It actually gets harder. And two, I've felt that as I level up, get a little bit better, get a new belt, get a stripe, the amount of myself that I have to give to get to that next level is a little bit more every time. As a white belt, I just kept showing up. I took my beatings, tried to survive, tried to defend and learn escapes, and just not get submitted a million times every round. And that kind of got me to blue belt. And at blue belt, I was grabbing techniques. I was doing a little bit more outside, off the mats, and starting to kind of find out what I like to play. Things that didn't work well for me, I'd throw away. Things that I really liked, I'd keep. And I started building this library of techniques. And as I started to specialize in certain guards and certain submissions that worked really well for me, and I sought out really hard training. This is when I really started cross-training, really started dropping into other gyms and finding those really hard rolls. And I got my purple belt. And these last 6 months have been tough, but when I figure out and remember that if I want to continue progressing at purple belt, I'm going to have to give a little bit more of myself. So I've become even more focused on what I'm working on, where the direction my jiu-jitsu is going, trying to reflect and ask questions and really figure out the finer details of technique, and learning to take what my opponent gives me and not force anything. So this came with more study time off the mats. I've also shifted my strength training to be things that I think have super high carryover to the mats. So as a whole, I'm giving more of myself to jiu-jitsu to continue to progress. So it's a concept that if you continue to remind yourself that what are you willing to give to get to that next level? I'm sure you can give the exact same amount and just do it consistently for years and years, and you'll get better, you'll progress, and you'll get to certain levels of your jiu-jitsu. But if you're willing to find ways to put in a little bit more, find ways to give a little more of yourself, and be a little more committed, a little more disciplined, get more out of your open mat sessions, get more out of your journaling and reflection, then I feel like you are rewarded that next level of skill. And not necessarily a stripe or a belt, but it's that extra time you put in. It's kind of you reap what you sow type mentality. It is something that I've always believed in. And I always believed if I didn't achieve something, it's because I didn't put the time in. I didn't give enough of myself. I didn't find that extra input that I could put in. And I think that's a big reason why it's so hard to get the black belt. And there's not a lot of black belts around. When you go to a gym, there's a handful of them. When I was at that camp this past week, there was 250 people that are obsessed with jiu-jitsu enough to fly to the East Coast. And there was 10, 15 black belts. I think a big reason for that is the difficulty of continuing to give more of yourself. Some people choose not to, don't make it a priority, and aren't willing to put in that 8, 10, 12, 15 years of consistent work to get to that level. So it's not always putting more time acutely, that week, that day. It's just putting more time in general. longer time on the mats, longer time training. And as you get those hours built up, the progression will happen. Another thing I think that it's so difficult to get to black belt is, as a white belt, man, I was making huge jumps in progress every week. I'd be shown something and it would blow my mind, and I'd work on it, and I'd drill it, and the next week I'd see improvement. I mean, hell, with my solo drills, I would run 2 or 3 weeks of solo drills. I'd go back, train in the mats, and I'd move a ton better because my body was just adapting. So that week of work, all it took for me to see and feel progression. And at blue belt, it slowed down. I had to work a little bit harder. It took a little bit longer, maybe a couple months to feel it. And now at purple belt, and I'll go a few months kind of feeling the same, not really sure if I'm getting better. And then I'll have a couple training sessions where everything will click. And things that I've been working on for a long time will finally work. And I'll feel like I'm thinking the way I want. I'm playing the game I want. And I feel like my reactions and my timing is on point. And then it'll be another few months. So it's taking a lot of work, consistent work, to feel and see a little bit of progression. And it's going to be, as you progress in your jiu-jitsu, it's going to take more and more work just to feel that little bit of progression. So I think continuing to work, not losing faith, and knowing that it's going to take a larger body of work to feel like you're getting better, to feel like you've progressed. It's going to take a lot more body of work than it did as a white belt, as a blue belt. And try not to get discouraged, not to get frustrated, stay patient, and know that dropping those pennies every day into that bank, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, you're going to eventually feel it. So what do you think? If you've made it this long in the video, what do you think it takes to continue to progress? And do you believe in you reap what you sow? Do you think it takes more of commitment and giving more of yourself to continue to progress? Or can you give the same amount and just do it for a long period of time, which is still kind of giving more of yourself? As always, keep hammering, keep getting after it.